we just heard, there's a definite call for the resignation of Treasury Secretary Timothy Geithner. And joining me now to talk more about this issue is former Iraq War veteran and congressional candidate Adam Kokesh. Adam, thank you so much for joining me. So I want to ask you, Geithner has said that had it not been for the big bailout for AIG, that it would have been catastrophic for our economy and for American families and businesses. Do you buy what he said?
Well, as usual with most elements of propaganda and government distortions, there is a grain of truth. And it's true that if they didn't do what they would have done, there would have been a market correction. And there would have been collapses of certain elements that are actually leeches on the economy and harming the average American. So they've taken that and distorted it and tried to scare the rest of the American people and make us think that we're dependent on Wall Street for things like job creation and prosperity and basic quality of life. And it's not true.
And, some are obviously calling for Geithner to resign. Do you think that he should resign?
Well, in a sense, it's a moot point. It's a non-issue compared to the bigger philosophy of our government towards the economy, and that we can have a fiat currency system through the Federal Reserve that is continuously pumping money into these artificial institutions, real institutions that are really taking wealth away from the American people, and that is what really needs to be examined here. I totally believe that Tim Geithner should not be in the position he's holding right now because he doesn't want to do any of the re-examining of the economic system and what he's overseeing that would get us on track to a much more prosperous system than what we have today.
So, Adam, I want to pause for a second and listen to a little bit of that testimony that we're talking about, and I'd love to hear your reaction about how well he did in defending his actions.
Were you involved in any discussions with AIG or your staff involved where you discuss what AIG should or should not disclose to the public?
Mr. Chairman, as I said, I had no role in making those decisions. But as the record shows, and the record before the committee shows, a large number of people at the Federal Reserve Bank of New York and the Federal Reserve Board in Washington played a very active role in thinking through those difficult choices.
But I'm not sure.
So, Adam, what did you think about that? Did he do a good job?
It was certainly a very effectively evasive testimony on Tim Geithner's part. I don't think he did a good job overall because I think what he's trying to excuse is completely inexcusable. And most people who are paying attention to this issue are seeing right through it. And one of the things that really bothered me to hear him say during his testimony was that all of these people involved in this decision process were acting in the best interest of the American people. Well, since 2008, how have the American people been doing? And it's not hard to see that the American people, we are suffering, that unemployment is going up and quality of life is going down. Simple as that. So either they're criminal and they're lying and they're all a bunch of thieves, or they're completely incompetent, and this entire system is based on a faulty philosophical approach and artificial concepts that have been inserted into modern economics as part of the giant scam now to use the government to steal from the poor to give to the rich. So I don't think he did a very good job. I don't think it was really possible. And I think the anger and resentment that was shown by members of Congress in that room really pales in comparison to the anger that the American people are feeling towards this government-sponsored financial system that we've been led to believe we're dependent on and benefit from when the opposite is the case.
So why then do you think President Obama is so supportive of Timothy Geithner?
Well, I think Obama's a big part of the problem. He represents his investors and his sponsors. As we saw when the American people voted for change in 2008, we didn't fundamentally change any of the things you have to do to become president. And so he's just making good to all of his sponsors on Wall Street and paying back everybody that helped him get into the office. So Obama is definitely part of the problem, only because he has the arrogance, as with most politicians these days, to think that they can run our lives for us better than we can run them for ourselves, as Ronald Reagan said, an intellectual elite in some far-off capital. And when you buy into that, when you have that kind of hubris and you think that your wisdom to control the flow of goods and services in society is somehow better than the collective wisdom of all individuals in society acting freely in their own accord, then you get to where we have today. And I'm not happy that Obama is failing. I'm really not. But I am happy that he is failing in such a way that he is creating what I think he would call a teachable moment. And the American people are waking up to this. And it's a very exciting time to be involved in politics because of that.
And really quickly, I want to ask you, how truthful do you think Timothy Geithner was? I mean, do you think he really knew about what was going on all along, or?
Well, how truthful? That's a good question. I mean, you're trying to get me to say that he lied, and I can't say that that I know, and that's one of the reasons people are demanding greater transparency and supporting bills like HR 1207 and S604 to audit the Fed. So I'm not going to speculate as to how much of his own lines that he really believes.
All right. Well, Adam, I want to thank you so much, and like I